Good morning. We're toy training. It's going well. And yes, he is back out in the camper. Good morning, Nina. We're doing our transferring from hands to toys training today. The last couple of days. He doesn't know what toys are. So, it's been fun. So, good morning. Hi. Oops. How are you guys doing? Tony, you just missed the cat training. Hang on, I forgot to turn on the do not disturb thing. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. Oh. He's learning how to use toys instead of my hands for playthings. He spent the day in the house yesterday. Good morning. But had to be brought out here again last night because he got overstimulated, and because he's not neutered, he attacked me and beat me up. So I'm glad that he's here and not with, like a household with a child in it or something. Yeah, it's just a minute. But since he doesn't know what toys are, I'm having to teach him. He bloodied me up pretty good, and he came back out in the camper, so. I know. Yeah, I'm his scratching post and his entertainment, and so he'll get to be staying out here till he gets his, Bernice called it getting his bags unpacked. They all want to fight in the beginning, and he was inside all day, and he did just fine. He and Ginger, rah, rah, at each other, but they weren't, like, engaging. But then he must have hit some point of overstimulation, because when I went in, he and Tonka and Hoot were on one side of the deck door, which is a French door, and then he was on the other side, and they were all puffed up and, having a chat. And then when I went to get him and put him in the bedroom, he was too overstimulated, so he ended up, like, attacking me as if I was another cat. So that was not fun. And it took a little bit to get him moved back out here last night, in the dark, in the rain. Oh my God. So, working things through with our cat stories. Good morning. And as just a brief bit of business, the Desire Map class is limited to 10, and we're up to 4. And the price goes up May 5th. So if you have been thinking about attending, get your ticket before the 5th when the price goes up. Hi, Kim. Are you on the road? Are you in Utah yet, or is that next week? Yeah. So, hi, Linda. Get your ticket before May 5th. There's only 6 spots left, so we're almost half price next week. We're almost half full for this Desire Map workshop that starts May 31st. But we're almost done with this, so let's read that. This is... Okay, so the last time we talked about the Big Magic book. We talked about how you can't worry about the outcome. I did, Linda, thank you. Thank you, I did. I got it this morning. And I appreciate your donation part, too. So, I'm reminded again this morning in the discussion with my mom earlier that there's no end. Oh, too much stress maybe. Ew, I just squished a bug by accident. Ew. I thought it was just a piece of fluff and it's actually a half-dead bug. Gross. That's the yucky part of the woods. I know she sent me a thank you note and a picture. And those bracelets are beautiful. So, there's no end, right? We're never done. You never get done. There's always something else to do. There's always something else to create. We have to quit looking for an end zone. And it's not that we're like a constant, we're not like a money pit house where there's a constant repair and something you're always having to do to it. It's not that at all. If you can shift your attitude on it, we're explorers. And we're always exploring outward, and we're always exploring our inner landscapes in our inner geography too. So there's always something new to discover because we're incredibly complex beings. We're not simple. And especially if you're on these scopes, you're not a simple, what you could describe as simple folk. You have a complex part to you, or you wouldn't be here. You are just naturally an explorer. And I don't even want to say searcher or seeker, because seeker implies there's something defined, and there isn't. There's only things, more and more things to be revealed that are already in existence, that are already there with you right now. So, I like explorer better, or adventurer, or whatever you want to call it. But the minute you let go of looking for an end zone, oh, Bernice. Hi, Bernice. I was just about to say that Bernice calls getting cats neutered unpacking their bags. I thought that was funny. The more you can let go of thinking there's an end to these self-exploration processes, the easier it's going to be for you. There's always something. There's always a book that's going to catch your attention, or a new theory, or a new course, and stuff like that. We're lifelong learners, us people here. We are going to be learning and creating our whole lives. That's one thing I do like about oils, is you can never learn it all. It's one thing I really like about music, is you can never learn it all. There's always another song to learn. And I dropped the guitar after my dad died and picked up the ukulele. And there's, that's a whole process of relearning chords and, different finger positions for chords. And, those kinds of things are good for your brain in a practical sense, because every time you're learning something new, you're releasing dopamine into your brain. And that's the pleasure chemical. That's the part that can get you addicted. And you can get addicted in a good way, like to oils or learning or Reiki or whatever it is that you do, building circuit boxes, whatever. You can get addicted to the learning process. That's not a bad thing. So, but to do it well, like we talked about the last time we talked about this book, you got to let go of the outcome and the thought that there's ever an end to it. There is no end zone. There is no touchdown. It's a constant journey. One more thing I'll say, and then I'll actually read the book. I checked in with some Desire Map workshop people to see if I've experienced, the more I let go of and the more I free up my expectations of what life is supposed to be, the more physical energy I have. I used to be a big napper, and I still like to take a nap, but I haven't actually taken a nap unless I was had gotten up at 4 or whatever when I nap with the twins. But I'm moving and doing all day long now, which that wasn't my normal state of being before. And then I asked if they had experienced an increase in physical energy since doing this work, and they all have, or they both have. But no, 3 of them. I've asked 3 people, have you experienced more energy? Well, it takes a lot of energy to lie to yourself. It takes a lot of energy to be in conflict. It takes an enormous amount of energy to hang on to resentments and past pain. So the more things are released, the more energy you have in your body, because you're not spending it holding down. It takes a lot of energy to hold back energy, if that makes sense. There's a lot of pressure on a dam across a river because it's holding back energy. When we dam up our own energetic flows through resentment and expectations for life that aren't accurate, then we're damming our own flow, and that takes a lot of energy to hold that dam in place. The minute you open the floodgates, yes, you're reclaiming more energy the more you let go of your stories and allow new stories to be written, or even deeper, stop telling stories about it at all and just let things be what they are. So something to check in on yourself. I'm going to be checking in with other people who've taken the workshop to see if they've noticed a physical energy shift so that I can start talking about that. Okay, so this chapter is called Walk Proudly in the Big Magic Book. We're almost done with this. 20 years ago, I was at a party talking to a guy whose name I've long since forgotten. Sometimes I think he came into my life for the sole purpose of telling me this story, which has delighted and inspired me ever since. Thanks for the hearts and the shares, by the way. I really appreciate that. The story this guy told me was about his younger brother who was trying to be an artist. The guy was deeply admiring of his brother's efforts, and he told me an illustrative anecdote about how brave and creative his brother was. For the purpose of this story, let's call him Little Brother. Little Brother, an aspiring painter, saved up all his money and went to France. He lived on the cheap, painted, traveled, spoke to everyone he met, showed his work to anyone who would look at it. One afternoon, Little Brother struck up a conversation in a cafe with a group of charming young people who turned out to be some species of fancy aristocrats. The charming young aristocrats took a liking to Little Brother and invited him to a party that weekend in a castle in the Loire Valley. They promised Little Brother that this was going to be the most fabulous party of the year. It would be attended by the rich, the famous, the several crowned heads of Europe. Best of all, it was to be a masquerade ball where nobody skimped on the costumes. It was not to be missed. Dress up, they said, and join us. Excited, Little Brother worked all week on a costume he was certain to be a showstopper. He scoured Paris for materials and held back neither on the details nor the audacity of his creation. Then he rented a car, drove to the castle 3 hours from Paris. He changed into his costume in the car and ascended the castle steps. He gave his name to the butler, who found him on the guest list and politely welcomed him in. Little Brother entered the ballroom, head held high, upon which he immediately realized his mistake. This was indeed a costume party. His new friends had not misled him there, but he had missed one detail in translation. This was a themed costume party, and the theme was a medieval court, and Little Brother was dressed as a lobster. All around him, the wealthiest and most beautiful people of Europe were attired in gilded finery and elaborate period gowns draped in heirloom jewels. I know, right? When you just die. Sparkling with elegance as they waltzed to a fine orchestra. Little Brother, on the other hand, was wearing a red leotard, red tights, red ballet slippers, and giant red foam claws. Also, his face was painted red. This is the part of the story where I must tell you that Little Brother was over 6 feet tall and quite skinny. But with the long waving antenna on his head, he appeared even taller. He was also, of course, the only American in the room. He stood at the top of the steps for one long, ghastly moment. He almost ran away in shame. Running away in shame seemed like the most dignified response to the situation, but he didn't run. Somehow he found his resolve. He'd come this far after all. He'd worked tremendously hard to make this costume, and he was proud of it. He took a deep breath and walked onto the dance floor. He reported later it was only his inexperience as an aspiring artist, that gave him the courage and the license to be so vulnerable and absurd. Something in life had already taught him to just put it out there, whatever it is. Yeah, the costume was what he had made after all, so that's what he was bringing to the party. It was the best he had. It was, in fact, all he had. So he decided to trust in himself, to trust in his costume, and to trust in the circumstances. As he moved into the crowd of aristocrats, a silence fell. The dancing stopped. The orchestra stuttered to a stop. The other guests gathered around Little Brother. Finally, someone asked him what on earth he was. He bowed deeply and announced, "I am the court lobster." Then laughter. Not ridicule, just joy. They loved him. They loved his sweetness, his weirdness, his giant red claws, his skinny ass, and his bright spandex tights. He was the trickster among them, so he made the party. Little Brother even ended up dancing that night with the Queen of Belgium. This is how you must do it, people. I've never created anything in my life that didn't make me feel at some point or another like I was the guy who had just walked into a fancy ball wearing a homemade lobster costume. Isn't that the best? I hope I would have handled it the same way. I think I would have wanted to die, just like he did. But I think at this point in my life, I would have just rolled with it. But 20 years ago, I would have died and just left and hoped never to encounter those people again. Today, I think I'd just be like, "What's up?" But that's taken a lot of work. An over 6 foot tall skinny lobster. You must stubbornly walk into that room regardless, and you must hold your head high. You made it. You get to put it out there. Never apologize for it. Never explain it away. And never be ashamed of it. And bitch, by the way, this brings me to another conversation from Wednesday night. Never apologize for your money. And if your money is increasing, you don't need to justify that. You don't owe anybody an explanation for it. And you don't need to scale it back so that other people don't feel uncomfortable. The best thing you can do is to get so successful that other people are jealous. Because then they get the opportunity to work through their jealousy. Because it's just letting them know that that's something they want. And they're not letting themselves believe that it's possible for them. So if you get like super snazzy and make everybody jealous, then they get the chance to join you there by working through their jealousy of it. So don't apologize for it. Don't explain it away. And don't be ashamed of it. It's ridiculous. We all do it, and we're all ridiculous. You did your best with what you knew, and you worked with what you had in the time you were given. You were invited, and you showed up, and you can't do more than that. And life is doing that for you every day. Life is inviting you to dive in more deeply. Your body is inviting you to join it more fully and to experience a more rich and complex existence by being willing to drop some stories and move through some stuff. I mean, honestly, it feels like the end of the world when you're moving through your stories and you're digging out stuff from the past that made you see the world in a different way. It's painful. It hurts. It takes guts and courage to stick it out. But my God, what's on the other side is more than worth it. It's more than worth it. It's what we were promised in our souls. It's what our souls know is true. And the more we live that way, the more it comes and the easier it gets. I can't tell you how hard it's been to feel the way I feel today. It's been so difficult. And I'm so glad that I didn't give up. And there's no giving up because it's going to just continue to increase. And it's not that your shit goes away, you still have that. But it's a different kind of shit. Oh, gosh. Okay, so they might throw you out of the party, but then again, they might not. They probably won't throw you out, actually. The ballroom is often more welcoming and supportive than you could ever imagine. It's better shit. It's mo better. And you might end up dancing with royalty, or you might end up having to dance alone in the corner of the castle with your big, ungainly red foam claws waving in the empty air. That's fine, too. Sometimes it's like that. What you absolutely must not do is turn around and walk out. Otherwise, you'll miss the party, and that would be a pity because, please believe me, we did not come all this great distance and make all this great effort only to miss the party at the last minute. So profound. So simple and so profound and so wonderful. She's such a great writer. So the last chapter is divinity, and I think we'll just go ahead and do this. Accidental grace. The last section is divinity. Excuse me. My final story comes from Bali. From a culture, is it Bali? Bali? From a culture that does creativity quite differently than we do it here in the West. This story was told to me by my old friend and teacher, Ketut Lyer, I don't know, Lyer, a medicine man who took me under his wing years ago to share with me his considerable wisdom and grace. As Ketut explained to me, Balinese dance is one of the world's great art forms. It's exquisite, intricate, and ancient. It's also holy. Dances are ritually performed in temple, as they have been for centuries under the purview of the priests. The choreography is vigilantly protected and passed from generation to generation. These dances are intended to do nothing less than keep the universe intact. It's a lot of pressure. Nobody can claim that the Balinese do not take their dancing seriously. I bet it's Balinese. I grew up in Texas where you get told to say Italian, Italian. You're going out for Italian food. And I was like 30 before someone said, it's Italian, not Italian. I was like, oh, okay. What is? Karate. Yeah. Is it Porsche? Is it Portia? Who knows? Back in the early 1960s, mass tourism reached Bali for the first time. Visiting foreigners immediately became fascinated with the sacred dances. The Balinese were not shy about showing off their art, and they welcomed tourists to enter the temples and watch the dancing. They charged a small sum for this privilege, the tourists paid, and everyone was happy. As touristic interest in this ancient art form increased, the temples became overcrowded. Things got a bit chaotic. The temples were not comfortable, and the tourists had to sit on the floor with the spiders and dampness and such. Then some bright Balinese soul had the terrific idea to bring the dancers to the tourists instead of the other way around. Wouldn't it be nicer and more comfortable for the sunburned Australians if they could watch the dances, say, from a resort swimming pool? Instead of from inside a damp, dark temple. Then the tourists could have a cocktail at the same time and really enjoy the entertainment. And the dancers could make more money because there would be room for bigger audiences. So the Balinese started performing their sacred dances at the resorts in order to better accommodate the paying tourists, and everyone was happy. Actually, not everyone was happy. The more high-minded of the Western visitors were appalled. This was desecration of the sublime. These were sacred dances. This was holy art. You can't just do a sacred dance on the profane property of a beach resort. And for money, no less. It was an abomination. It was spiritual, artistic, and cultural prostitution. It was sacrilege. These high-minded Westerners shared their concerns with the Balinese priests, who listened politely, despite the fact that the hard and unforgiving notion of sacrilege does not translate easily into Balinese thinking. Nor are the distinctions between sacred and profane quite so unambiguous as they are in the West. The Balinese were not entirely clear as to why the high-minded Westerners viewed the beach resorts as profane at all. Did divinity not abide there as well as everywhere else on earth? Hi, Angela. So wasn't God also present at the beach resorts, in other words? Similarly, they were unclear as to why the friendly Australian tourists in their clammy bathing suits should not be allowed to watch sacred dances while drinking Mai Tais. Were these nice-seeming and friendly people undeserving of witnessing beauty? Completely different way of looking at it. But the high-minded Westerners were clearly upset by this whole turn of events, and the Balinese famously do not like to upset their visitors, so they set out to solve the problem. The priests and the masters of the dance all got together and came up with an inspired idea, inspired by a marvelous ethic of lightness and trust. They decided they would make up some new dances that were not sacred, and they would perform only these certified, divinity-free dances for the tourists at the resorts. The sacred dances would be returned to the temples and be reserved for religious ceremonies only. And that's exactly what they did. And they did it really easily, too, with no drama and no trauma. Adapting gestures and steps from the old sacred dances, they devised what were essentially gibberish dances, and commenced performing these nonsense gyrations at the tourist resorts for money. And everyone was happy because the dancers got to dance, the tourists got to be entertained, and the priest earned some money for the temples. Best of all, the high-minded Westerners could now relax because the distinction between the sacred and the profane had been safely restored. Everything was in its place, tidy and final, except that it was neither tidy nor final. Because nothing is ever tidy or final. The thing is, over the next few years, those silly new meaningless dances became increasingly refined. The young boys and girls grew into them, and working with a new sense of freedom and innovation, they gradually transformed the performances into something quite magnificent. In fact, the dancers were becoming rather transcendent. In another example of an inadvertent seance, it appeared that those Balinese dancers, despite all their best efforts to be completely unspiritual, were unwittingly calling down big magic from the heavens anyhow. Right there by the swimming pool. All they'd originally intended to do was entertain tourists and themselves, but now they were tripping over God every single night, and everyone could see it. It was arguable that the new dances had become even more transcendent than the stale old sacred ones. The Balinese priests, noticing this phenomenon, had a wonderful idea. Why not borrow the new fake dances, bring them into the temples, incorporate them into the ancient religious ceremonies, and use them as a form of prayer? In fact, why not replace some of those stale old sacred dances with these new fake dances? So they did. At which point, the meaningless dances became holy dances because the holy dances had become meaningless. That is fascinating. That is so awesome. And everyone was happy except for the high-minded Westerners, who were now thoroughly confused because they couldn't tell anymore what was holy and what was profane. It had all bled together. The lines had blurred between high and low, between light and heavy, between right and wrong, between us and them, between God and earth, and the whole paradox was totally freaking them out, which I cannot help but imagine is what the trickster priests had in mind the entire time. You can't. That is the problem when you confuse the symbol with the holy. There's that stuff in the Bible about worshiping idols or whatever. You can't, the object is not the holy. The dance is not the holy. The expression of God in the world is the holy. And it doesn't matter. You can make my special pottery cup a sacred holy cup and get dependent on it. And then if the cup breaks, oh my God, I can't scope anymore. That's ridiculous. My mom and I went round and round about, oh no! Maybe I'll try to come on at 10. I don't know. It's so random. I hate being pinned to a number or a time because then I get distracted and then I feel bad. Holy will sneak in when you're just being happy. You can't confuse the object with the force of all that is. Okay, so that's what the high-minded Westerners got wrong. It wasn't the dances that were holy. It was the expression of creativity that was holy. It was the use of your physical body that you've been given by all that is and animates you. It was expressing that animating presence in the most highly creative, joyful way possible. You can do that in your business. You can understand that you are expressing the holy in your business as you sell someone a kit of oils, or you sell them a transmission repair, or you build them a deck. You're exchanging your physical body's efforts for money, which is another energetic thing I'm learning more and more. And your creativity, your expression done from that place of holiness increases your life. And it's the same in every single thing. Cleaning your dishes, cleaning the countertops can be an act of holiness, depending on how you look at it. Catching up your paperwork at work can be an act of sacredness. It's your viewpoint of it. It's your worldview. And if you think that you can only find God in a church, you're doomed. That's ridiculous. He doesn't live there. He lives here. And you take him with him wherever you go. There's value to attending church if you like that. Because it, excuse me, I was digging in my bra purse. Do you guys have bra purses? I know you do. I love my bra purse. I was like, what's tickling me in there? Oh, it's my glasses cloth that I shoved in my bra purse. The twins always yank our shirts open and start digging in our bras because they know we keep stuff in there. So whenever you pick them up, they start shopping to see what you've got in your bra purse. Your double D's needed a job. I'm so comfortable with you guys that I just go digging around as if, whatever, that some random person might not see this. Here's the bra purses. Yay. My mom and I had a struggle. We were, oh, Aaron, you just missed me digging in my bra purse. You might want to watch the replay. We had a struggle with a Buddhist group who uses their tools, okay? All of this is tools. The dance is a tool. The Bible is a tool. The the dancing was the tool for the expression of the divine in the world. Poetry is the tool. Making pottery is the tool for the expression of the divine in the world. Oh no. Excuse me, TSA officer, let me just help you out here. Here's what's causing the problem, is my thimble. This Buddhist group, it's a Soka Gakkai Buddhism. They do a chanting thing, which really can align you with universal forces, and it's a meditation like any other meditation. But the chanting is done while focusing on a document called the Gohonzon, and the Gohonzon is a teaching that was written on a scroll in the 12th century. Speaking of divine naughtiness, I'm bloody. Like, my lower legs are bloody from where he attacked me last night. Don't let this face fool you. He is evil. Till he gets his bags unpacked, he's evil. So what happens is the Gohonzon paper becomes too precious. And you're supposed to hold it a certain way, and if you have to move, there's this ritual involved, and it becomes too special, and oh my God, if you damage it, your whole life is ruined. You're going to go effectively to Buddhist hell, which there isn't one. If you damage your Gohonzon, that's placing the object before the energy. The object is just a tool. And yeah, so you can't breathe on it. Yeah, you're supposed to put something in your mouth, like a matchstick or something, if you have to take it out of its box called a butsudan. You take the Gohonzon out of the butsudan, and you have to roll it up and package it to move it somewhere else. You're supposed to put something between your lips so that your breath doesn't touch it. I'm like, but you're sitting and you're chanting, you're doing your mantra chanting type stuff in front of it. I think your breath might be blowing on it. So, what about that? Anyway, my mom had a tiff with one of the women because she had the gall to say that it was just a tool. It was not funny at the time. It's kind of funny now. Yeah, don't ask questions. Don't question it. We get so confused, right? Because we can't hardly handle that all that is the quantum field. We can't. Legalism. That's the perfect word. Yes. Legalism, where you're just stuck on the object. And this is a perfect example of that. The dancing. Oh, you can't do that. The dances are holy. Okay, well, we'll make them nonsense dancing. But then the kids grow up and they're expressing the divine in the world, so the dances become transcendent and holy. And I love that the priests were just like, we like these dances better. The other ones are old and stale. Let's use the ones that are bright and alive and filled with God's energy right now. Or the divine's energy, whatever you want to call it. Religious versus spiritual. Yeah, I love this example. So anyway, be careful that you're not making the dollar your idol or the Netflix your idol, or, be careful what is sucking up your energy and what's becoming too precious. It's all just objects. You can't take it with you when you die. You can only take your experiences. So be careful that you aren't treating... Oh, I love the Netflix. I was just watching Kimmy Schmidt again last night. Or the Periscope. Don't make the Periscope too precious. Periscope won't be around in the form it is now. Eventually, they're probably going to charge us for it. I'm fine with that. It's been a great tool. Hulu, or your kids. They don't belong to you. They just come through you. Or the dang, stinking, whatever. Whatever it is. Or your shoes. I love it. The meaningless dances became holy dances because the previous holy dances had lost their meaning. There's a time and a place. Yeah, you treat those things with reverence because of the tool that they are is a great tool for you to remember your own holiness and to remember that the people you encounter today are other extensions of that divinity. So treat them well. Even if they don't treat you well, treat them well. Yeah, it's respect, not a pedestal. My precious. Yeah, if you're singing the My Precious song about anything, just knock it off. And the Western people, where you can tell, we're really locked into the legalism. Oh, I love churches. I really do. I don't attend one regularly, but I like churches in general. I appreciate the intention of people who are there. And if you have someone who's an open channel for good and you feel that hit you like a fire hose of awesomeness, it's really hard not to be moved by that. But the thing is there is no separation. You and the Bible are the same quantum energy at the bottom of it all. You and the Gohanson, you and the scrolls. When you leave as soon as the service begins. I've walked out of churches who were preaching hateful messages. In fact, my mom and I and Morgan walked out of a church because as soon as they started, they were preaching hate and awfulness. And we were like, oh no, we're not even going to sit through this to be polite. We're out of here. And we got up and left. I don't need to sit for an hour and listen to someone preaching venom. My life's too short for that. In conclusion, we're done with this book. Here's the last one. Creativity protects your soul. Don't expose it to harshness and meanness. You don't need to do that. Creativity is sacred, and it is not sacred. What we make matters enormously, and it doesn't matter at all. We toil alone, and we are accompanied by spirits. We are terrified, and we are brave. Art is a crushing chore and a wonderful privilege. Only when we are at our most playful can divinity finally get serious with us. Make space for all those paradoxes to be equally true inside your soul, and I promise that you can make anything. So please calm down now and get back to work, okay? The treasures that are hidden inside you are hoping you will say yes. And I would say the rest of the world is hoping that you'll say yes to the treasures inside you, because there's no way that you're going to create something and not benefit somebody in the doing so, even if it's only you. If you create stuff, Vivian Meyer is a good example. Vivian Meyer was an amazing photographer and waited too long to get her work out in the world and ended up dying as she was in the process of making arrangements. She had made her work too precious, and she was kind of a weirdo anyway, and she sounds like she wasn't a very nice person, but at a minimum, she impacted her own life by constantly creating. So even if nobody ever sees your creations, your life is going to benefit. But if you ever get to where you can let other people share in what you've created, and by creation I really mean a helping hand to someone else, a blog post, an essay, whatever. It doesn't have to be art. Helping your neighbor out can be a creative act. And you change the world that way, one person at a time. I've never posted on my blog and not had at least one person send me a note, even if they never said holding a door. If you don't know if you're holding the door for someone who'd lost all faith in humanity and needed a little sign that some kindness still exists in the world. You have no idea. Hold the damn door. Let the person in on the highway. Don't worry about if you have to shove your way on the highway and the person behind you gets pissed. It's all right. They can be mad. It's okay. Okay? So, do it. And if you try to do it and you find yourself blocked, find a coach, find a therapist, find a friend, do something to figure out what is stopping you from putting your creations out in the world, from sharing your uniqueness with the people around you in a greater way and in a more complex way. Meditate. Do something. Do something. Yeah. Come to a workshop. Save yourself some money and come before May 5th. Sign up before May 5th. And we're finding that the essential oils are moving and changing us in ways we didn't even realize or expect. You're welcome. Thanks for coming by. So I'm going to wrap up and go, do drawing. Thank you. God, you guys are so awesome at helping me remember to put the website up there. CaddyshackDesigns.com. Tabs across the top for Reiki, for workshops, for essential oils, coaching, whatever. Everything that I do is there. And I'm noticing that I'm not doing product reviews much anymore, so I'm not sure if I need to change the name, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I really like my logo. And I paid a lot of money for it, and I love it, so I don't want to give it up. Anyhow, oh, brother. All right, have a wonderful day. I know. I'm not going to give it up. I'm just going to let it go, be itself. I love you guys. Thanks for writing this book out with me. And when we come back, we're going to finish our Tao Te Ching book tomorrow. Love you too. And then we're going to start that one over. And then we're going to start Mind Body Code by Mario, Dr. Mario. Is it Dr. Mario? And then next Wednesday, oh, you're welcome. Next Thursday, Martha Beck's new book comes out called Diana Herself. So I'm going to toss that one in the mix. I was going to do Untethered Soul, but I really want to share the new Martha Beck book with you. Yeah! Oh, this is a great book. It's a great book. And then let's read Martha Beck's new book together, too. Goodbye! Have a wonderful day! See you later. Wipe off some cat hair. Love you guys.